Vexed by technology? Not anymore. I'm David Yak here, and this is Yak About Tech. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is David Yak here, and you are listening and watching now to Yak About Tech, your GPS guide to technology and everything else that has an impact on our daily lives. We are broadcasting today from the Planet Vero studios, home of iHeartRadio's Waxy 107.9, and this is the place where the fish and the sharks are biting. All right, speaking of fish and sharks, we're graced today with the presence of Carl Fismer, one of the world's greatest deep-sea treasure hunters. And I think we're going to have an extraordinary hour. And this is sort of a first for Yak About Tech. Usually, as most people who listen to the show know, we have a certain routine here. We talk about technology, and then we tell our stories of the week and tech stories of the week. And mostly, it's just either Sally and I or Wayne and I in the studio, and we have people online on Skype all around the world who we talk about technology to. So this is really new for me to actually have a whole studio filled with people right here to talk to eye to eye. And also, I'd love to introduce a great special co-host with me today. Right, and I think everybody knows her, right? This is Lisa Reimer. You may know her. She's editor of Luminaries now, and several other things. Tell my audience who may not know you, Lisa, a little about you.
Well, first of all, I'm here because I'm friends with Sally and Wayne Dillon and Idea Garden, and they told me about this amazing show that you're having today. And David, I have to tell you, when I first met you, you were so impressive. You were the first person to have a PR agency on the internet. They know you in Silicon Valley. Here you have a radio show right here in Indian River County, and you're almost an unknown. So this is like such a special thing for you to be making inroads in this community and bringing your knowledge of the internet and social media and all of those things. And now interesting guests. I'm an editor, like you said, for the Luminaries, which is in the Press Journal on Mondays. And I work with the Your News Weekly and the Vero Beach News Weekly publications, also with Treasure Coast newspapers. And I've been in local television and good friends here on the radio. We had a show, I think, for about a year. So I'm really interested because the 300th anniversary is coming up of 1715 Spanish fleet that sunk.
That's right, and that's why we're here today. We're going to talk to Carl all about that. And by the way, I got to thank you. Talk about PR agency. I think you just did more PR for me than any agency I had worked with. Okay, but before we get to Carl, and we also have another guest I don't want to forget. We've got Sam here. Sam Milner, he's a biographer, great biographer in his own right, working with Carl right now. So we're going to get to both of them in a minute. But as usual, I want to let our audience know that once again, this was our summer of experimentation. And for those in the studio that don't know what we've been doing over the summer, we've been working to really build out the technology in the studio to add video to it. So we now have video capabilities, and we call it our sort of beta testing all summer. We took this show originally from an hour down to a half hour so we can concentrate on building out the video. So I want to tell people how they can watch us on video right now. And if you're watching us live, currently you'll sign up for livestream.com. If you register at Livestream and you look for Planet Vero Studios, you'll be able to catch the show. But more importantly, every time we're about to go into production with the show, you will be notified by email every time there's a show coming up. And, of course, you can go there and look for past shows. Now, if you miss the live stream or the broadcast, you can always subscribe to Yak About Tech on iTunes. We're also on TuneIn Radio. You'll always find the show on YouTube, Livestream, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Instacast. It is just about every place. And those of you who know me, you'll know that you'll also find our latest shows on yakabouttech.com. We do get questions all the time. We get them through our Twitter accounts, which is Yak About Tech. And you can always email me at yakabouttech@gmail.com. So also, and this is a first, and I think it's even going to surprise the producers, for the first time I want to tell the audience that in the next few weeks, we will have a dedicated iPhone app for Yak About Tech, which you'll be able to download right on your iPhone. We'll follow it up several weeks later with an Android app, and you'll be able to have everything that you have heard on broadcast in the terrestrial radio show, and also in video. But we will also be doing special shows for the app itself. So I'll let you know. You should be able to download it in the next couple of weeks, and we think that's going to be really, really fantastic. So, all right. I did get, I usually go through a question and answer period and then some news. I'm going to cut this short because this show is so special that not only are we going to do it for this half hour, but we're going to continue the show next week with our guests. And so this will be one of two. But there are a couple of questions that came in recently, and I want to clear up. There was a question about getting your contracts from the telco companies, from Verizon or AT&T, and what's happening with this subsidizing of the phone. And I don't think I cleared that up because the questions keep coming in. And that is that right now we are under the impression that when we buy a new phone from a new wireless phone, a smartphone from the companies, that it's costing us either $199 or $299. And in fact, those phones really cost about $800 or $900 or $1,000, and they're subsidized by the telco companies. What they're now doing is they're going to sell you the phone separately and allow you to pay it off month by month, and therefore enter into a new kind of contract with them where you don't have to stay for the entire 2 years because the phone is not attached to the contract. So I wanted sort of to clear that up. And also, I did want to talk about people were asking me about Skype's voice translator that they're adding to the Skype app. And this is, as people who know me, I think this is one of the most exciting techs to come on. Soon you'll be able to talk on Skype, and the person on the other end could actually just pick their language. And you may be speaking English, but they will hear Spanish or they will hear French. So you will be able to communicate. I think it's a very important step in technology. I can't wait till Microsoft brings it to Skype. All right. So I really pushed that really fast just to get to our guest. So let me introduce Carl for some of you who don't know him. Carl, he's sort of this great adventurer. He's got that life that books are written about, movies are made of, and obviously biographies and all that. They call him Fizz. His friends call him Fizz, and I'm hoping at least by part 2 of the show, we can call him Fizz. And he's one of the great treasure hunters, and he's often described as the underwater Indiana Jones. And we know him here because he's actively working off the Treasure Coast, which is a really perfect first question for me because I'm not sure. I'm fairly new. I'm down, from up north. And, the Treasure Coast I sort of assumed was called the Treasure Coast. First, I thought it was just so beautiful. Everybody called it the Treasure Coast. I didn't know it was really a treasure coast. So, Carl, take us through how we got our name here.
Well, thank you, David, for having me. There are lots of people in the area, and that stretches like from a little bit south of Fort Pierce all the way up to north of Sebastian, and that is the Treasure Coast. And, of course, the reason it's a Treasure Coast, there was a whole fleet of Spanish galleons that sank here in 1715. This happens, of course, to be the 300th anniversary. And there'll be a lot going on in town, especially during, the whole area, not just here, but all up and down the Treasure Coast. I have a couple of lectures I'm going to be giving, and I'm redoing my PowerPoint presentation to just present the 1715 fleet stuff. The way it is now, I have things from all around the world, such as, the Arthur C. Clarke and the Taj Mahal treasure. And all through the Caribbean, I've worked, I guess, 300 or 400 wrecks in 45 years.
Carl, how did you start diving for treasure? How old were you when you began?
Well, actually, I didn't start till late in life. I used to work for General Motors up in Cincinnati. It was horrible. It was horrible.
I worked for Ford, so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And both General Motors and Ford were my accounts.
Oh, right.
So I was in the tool and die department, and the money was good, and but I had this feeling I'm recording my life on these little computer cards. I'm going in, I'm going out, and I got to the point where I intentionally wouldn't even go through the line and hit the card just to make everybody mad at me. So finally, I just quit. I had a tragedy happen. My wife was killed in a car accident, and that pretty much pushed me over the edge. So I picked up my 2 kids and came to Florida. That was in 1970, and I've been here ever since.
How old were you?
But when I got down here, I was 32, so I guess it happened 2 years. I'd have been 30 years old when that happened.
And had you ever lived by the ocean before? So did you have a relationship with the ocean?
No, but the closest I came to it was when I was stationed at Fort Bragg, and with the first long weekend we got, I headed over to Myrtle Beach, and we got there in the middle of the night, but I didn't care. I went in swimming anyway, and now, of course, that's where everybody's getting bitten by sharks.
Right.
So I missed that part. Anyway, I moved here in 1970. I was lucky enough to get a job on the Sarasota Fire Department. I was in charge of the boat. I got my 100-ton license, and I was in charge of the boat and the divers. And one day we were actually out. We were supposed to be drilling or practicing our rescue and recovery techniques. And by some kind of a freak, we just happened to anchor right over a wreck. And that was pretty much it. It was my guess, about 1940 mini freighter busted in half. And I was just watching the fish, swim in and out. And I thought that's amazing, because at one time, this particular ship, somebody bought that new, like you buy a new car, and you're proud of it and you're driving it. And now here it is on the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico, and I noticed there were a lot of copper pipes in there, copper tubing. And so I thought, wow, that's scrap value. And so the 6 of us spent 2 tanks of air busting the copper out of this wreck. And that next day I took it to the scrap yard, and I think we got $6.11 out of it. But that kind of showed me that you might be able to make some money diving. And believe me, after working for General Motors 9 years, in fact, when I quit, they said, why don't you stay 1 more year and you'll get retirement? And I said, I can't. And then on the fire department, I worked 9 years, and I quit again. They said, why don't you work 1 more year and, you get retirement, Social Security? And I said, I can't. So that was in 1980, and I moved to the Keys full time, and I've been there ever since. I guess I worked all the 1733 fleet. The 1733 fleet is where treasure hunting started. A man named Art McKee was the father of modern-day treasure hunting. In fact, Sam's written a couple of songs about Art McKee. We have the Treasure album out, and I was the last treasure hunter to break in under Art McKee. All of the big names in the business, like we mentioned earlier, Kip Wagner, he started with Art McKee. Mel Fisher, Art McKee. Jack Haskins, Art McKee. Everybody are with Art McKee.
And was he down in the Keys?
Oh, yes. He opened the very first sunken treasure museum in the United States. And his backer was Ed Link, who's most famous for inventing the Link trainer in World War II. This man is a real American hero. He shortened World War II by God knows how much.
What's the Link trainer?
The Link trainer is, they trained over 1 million pilots. Like you walk into a room just like this, and you get in there, and now you're flying. You're not.
Oh, so it's like a virtual training studio.
Yeah.
Really? Oh,
over 1
very
million.
Interesting.
Carl, just before you mentioned Arthur C. Clarke, for the audience, most of the audience always knows Arthur C. Clarke as sort of the writer of 2001: Space Odyssey, and those of us in technology know he was a great futurist. But I don't believe the world out there knows that he was also a deep sea diver, and you were
unbelievable.
great friends.
That's the highlight of my career, and so I enjoy talking about the 1715 fleet's great, and I love it, and I had 17 years on it, and King Philip V has been very, very good to me. But Arthur Clarke, I didn't know he was a treasure hunter. Most of his fans were not aware of it. He led the expedition that salvaged the only sunken treasure lost by the family that built the Taj Mahal.
Wait. So the Taj Mahal is in India.
In India.
And so where was the treasure lost?
Oh, off the coast of Sri Lanka, which is where Arthur Clarke's been living since, I think, 1956.
I think we have a graphic of some of the Taj Mahal, some of the findings there. I wonder if we could
I hope so.
Put that up. For a moment, for the people who are watching on video. For those who are not, you can always check out the website.
So these are different than you see like in the escudos, because they're not in Spanish, they're in Hindi or something.
Well, they were minted in Surat, India in the year 1702. Look at the workmanship, far and away much better. In fact, the curator for the American Numismatic Association has said that the dies were made by gem cutters. These were people that took pride in their work. And each coin, of course, tells a story. And the transcription on this particular piece is Emperor Aurangzeb, son of Shah Jahan, builder of the Taj Mahal, ruler, world grasper, struck coins like the shining full moon. That's it. Pretty neat, huh? I can't help it. I love it. And that's just one of Clarke's things.
How did you meet him?
Because Dr. Mendel Peterson, curator of the Smithsonian, when Clarke got onto this wreck, he contacted him to help him identify it. And Dr. Mendel Peterson also worked with Art McKee and Ed Link. I have a picture of the three of them diving the Capitan of the 1733 fleet. And I didn't get to meet Mr. Link, but Dr. Mendel Peterson from the Smithsonian was a good friend, and Art McKee was a good friend. I missed Ed Link, unfortunately. But and now here's Mendel Peterson tied in with Arthur Clarke. It's like one big circle. For me, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. A lot of places and a lot of people. Arthur Clarke got to be friends with Werner von Braun after World War II. Clarke was an officer in the British Army, and he got Werner von Braun diving because diving is the closest thing to weightlessness in outer space. Clarke came up with the idea of the tank in Huntsville to train the astronauts. Every astronaut and cosmonaut were friends of Clarke. Wow. We did this half-hour action-adventure thing that we have a clip from, but we were going to do a 2-hour docu-adventure thing, and we're trying to raise money for it. Buzz Aldrin, second man on the moon, calls us up. Yes, sir, Mr. Aldrin. He said, are you guys going over and dive with Arthur? Yes, sir, we are. He said, can I go with you? No, we don't want you. Yeah, of course you can go. The problem was we were never able to raise the money to do it. But while we were there, we did some scuba diving with Clarke. He had never made a 100-foot dive, and he wanted to make a 100-foot dive.
Is that a really difficult thing?
Well, yes and no. It depends on how much experience you got. I have a lot of diving experience, but fortunately for me, 90% of the wrecks are in shallow water, but I've got a few deep dives.
I think I mentioned this earlier because I always like to bring things into the technology sphere, but 100-foot dive back then or 30, 40 years ago would be different than it is today. There's different technology. How has diving changed over the lifetime?
They're using rebreathers now. It's my good fortune. I happen to have John Chatterton, and believe me, every diver in the world knows John. He's the most famous wreck diver in the world today because he had the Deep Sea Detective Show and because Robert Kurson wrote a book featuring John Chatterton called Shadow Divers on a World War II German submarine. Rebreathers. You can go down, stay as long as you want. You don't have to worry about decompression even.
We need to talk about that and exactly what the technology of that is. And we also actually need to say you've been in television shows of your own. We're about to take a break, but that's what I want to know. The television shows that have followed you, Carl.
All right, so let's do this. We're going to have you back next week.
All righty.
So we'll continue the discussion next week. But right now, I want to tell everybody to follow us on Twitter, Yak About Tech. Check out yakabout.tech.com. You'll see the video. You'll listen to the audio. And
really quick, 300th anniversary of the 1715 sinking. We're talking about that. There's a whole week-long commemoration here, July 27th through like the 31st. We're going to get all the details. Keep in tune with Yak About Tech. Okay.